And there's a beautiful traditional expression, self-shining presence. And that's so exquisite because this presence, this awareness, this wakefulness that we are, does not need any external light or illumination. It is itself illumination.
Welcome to Letting Go and the Greatest Secret, where we explore the end of your suffering and the beginning of lasting happiness. I am Hale Dwoskin, and today we'll be meeting Peter Lawry, who was a featured teacher along with me in Rhonda Byrne's The Greatest Secret. Peter Lawry lives in Melbourne, Australia, where he focuses on awakening people to their true nature and living as flow, intuitively, creatively, and at ease. How would you describe what we're all looking for?
That's such a fabulously funny question.
Yeah. I know.
Because
I figured we'd start there.
yeah. There's a beautiful saying, what you're looking for is looking.
Yes.
Yeah. And, that the fantasy of enlightenment, the story of some perfect, brilliant future state, it's totally illusory. It's like trying to reach the horizon or get to the end of the rainbow.
Yes.
And that future projection is a never-ending quest. And it's absolutely fine. That's just part of design function. It's right. Just the way we're wired. And the funny thing is, we all already know what we're looking for. If we just change the language and we talk about, for example, flow, or being in the zone. Everyone knows that. We're all present, aware, and simply here all the time. And that this I story appears and disappears. Yet as soon as we become engrossed in something as simple as a good conversation, there's no you, there's no me, there's simply the flow. And we all experience that many, many times every day. So in one way of answering what we're looking for, we all innately know it's deeply who we are. And words like presence or wakefulness, here, are perhaps useful pointers because it's not something extraordinary and rare. It's who we are. It's the essence of who we fundamentally are. And there's a beautiful traditional expression, self-shining presence. And that's so exquisite because this presence, this awareness, this wakefulness that we are does not need any external light or illumination. It is itself illumination. And Hal, one of the things that I find so extraordinary is that this self-shining presence enlightens everything. And it is so profoundly powerful. Whenever we focus that presence, that attention, it illuminates everything. And there's a wonderful, wonderful hint. Nothing stands up to investigation. And when the self-shining presence focuses on anything, it reveals itself as insubstantial and transitory. It's just, it disappears.
Yes. Into the presence itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. That's beautifully put. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
All of us have our unique pointers that we share with people. And one of the ones that you have that I really like is this invitation to reverse how we look at this.
Yeah.
And it's something that I really resonate with. I teach as well, but I really want to hear it from your perspective. Can you talk about ground reversal and
Sure.
What you mean by that, why it's so important? Give us examples. Just let's get into that.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Well, we call it a figure ground reversal. Partly as a provocation.
Yes.
Yeah. Because the typical search is set up as a separate I as subject, looking for a result as object. So right. Subject object in a linear logical progression. Yeah. How to get there from here.
Right.
Yeah, and nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's simply a certain mode of functioning. A reference point appears. We can't even get out of the room without that functioning because it's very useful. How do I get out the door? Subject, object, there's a handle, there's a door, go. Absolutely right. Useful. And it serves as a mode of functioning, just living. Yet for looking for understanding, it is absolutely useless.
Totally.
Because it sets up this never-ending pursuit. And you can never get to there from here because all you can do is be here.
Yes.
And so what we invite is to start from the end, because any of us who have been around this non-duality or spiritual seeking, you learn the jargon, you know the words. I am that, you are that, everything is that. So take that seriously for a moment and act as if it is true and start from the presumption of being that and resting as that. Simply notice that anything that disconfirms and investigate it. Investigating it as wakefulness, as presence. So rather than locating as an I, a me, looking for that, rest as presence and notice anything which appears, any old story, any self-limiting belief, and investigate it. And in the investigation, its insubstantiality reveals itself. And what's left is what's always here. This presence, this awareness, this wakefulness. I mean, what could be simpler?
It's very direct.
Yeah.
Do you find when people do that investigation that it's helpful to allow themselves to start by just getting more in touch with that presence of awareness that they are, so that it's not just, again, you can even, in my experience, when you say something like that to someone, they can intellectually make a jump, but it's not the same as actually allowing themselves to come from that presence of awareness, of beingness that they are.
Yeah.
So what do you say to people, or what pointers do you use to help people change their perspective so they're ready to look at it from that perspective?
Yeah. Well, one hint is a mantra I often offer people, which is simply, there you go. That's okay. There you go. And so take on the working assumption that you are that. Take on the logical assumption that you are presence because you've heard the stories and you've internalized the slogans and the one-liners. Take them as real for a moment and just rest as that. And anything that appears to disconfirm that, any doubt, any anxiety, any fear, simply notice it and be with it. Allow it to be as it is. There you go. That's okay. Now, there's a great subtlety here because we all know that when you deny something and suppress it, it's like trying to squash a balloon. It simply pops up again. And if you buy into something and give it energy, you give it life. So denying it doesn't work. Buying into it doesn't work. There's that subtle, soft point of just being easy. There you go. Acknowledging it, letting it be as it is, and it fades. Because these things that pop up, they're traces. They're insubstantial. They're just old thoughts, memories, stories, some reactivity. And left alone, they fade. I mean, a beautiful analogy is like we've all seen a vapor trail when a jet plane goes in the sky and it leaves this trail. And then the trail just dissipates and just fades into the sky. And these traces, just allowing them to be, then they just fade away, just fall away. So it's that just encouraging people to be easy. I mean, there's a beautiful old traditional word, abide.
Yes.
Beautiful old word.
I love the old words. They're so clean and direct. Like so self-shining and abide. They're just beautiful. Yeah.
Absolutely. And when we abide, we nestle with something. We rest with it. We settle with it. We don't buy into it. We don't reject it. We don't try to push it away. We just simply just rest. There you go. That's okay. And in that gentle being with, allowing to be, things just fall into place. or fall out of place.
Right. Either way is okay.
What, and what's left's what's always here.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing more effortless about than being that which you are. That's what's already here.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful way to express it. Just, there you go. That's okay.
Yeah. And Hal, I mean, one thing I really encourage is being kind to ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember a few years ago, Kalyani took one of our granddaughters to school one morning. Yeah, it was primary school, very junior school. And there on the blackboard was written, "Be kinder than necessary." And she came home, it just touched her so deeply. What a beautiful expression.
Yes, yes, yes.
Be kinder than necessary. And just being gentle with ourselves. Yeah, just being easy. Just resting. And let things appear and disappear, and that's okay. There you go. That's okay.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because most of us are doing the opposite. There's this habit of rejecting or blaming or resisting or denying. And it doesn't change anything except our experience of it. It doesn't change what the actual.
Exactly. And Hal, one of the things that all that points me to is like this self-shining presence, this luminosity is so powerful. This intrinsic awareness is so extraordinarily powerful. And if we focus it on what's wrong, we focus it on our fears and anxieties, it illuminates and gives life to anything that it focuses on.
Right.
And that's the thing, we have this extraordinary intelligence, this presence, and we use it to actually illuminate and shine a light on all the things that are wrong.
Right.
It's like, rather than just, there you go. This is appearing in the light of this presence. It's okay.
Right, right.
And letting it just reveal itself for what it is, insubstantial.
Yes, yes. Yeah, sometimes I say to people, everyone already has a meditative practice. They're already meditating on their problems, on their imaginary suffering. Yeah. And you might want to meditate on something else. Yeah, beautifully put.
Thank you. Yeah.
And when people come to you for a consultation or come to one of your meetings, what are some of the questions that people have that this answers? So, I mean, share something that's a common thing that people bring to you and how you would answer it. Just see what comes up.
Sure. In the end, you just say whatever comes up. Yes. Yet, of course, there are patterns, and we're all, if we just go into our own story, there's a version of feeling not okay, not good enough, incomplete, missing something, and all feeling upset and wanting sort of some sense of peace or freedom or joy. It's pretty universal. And that's absolutely fine, because that's the rub
right.
that gets us here.
Yes.
How beautiful.
Without that, we'd ignore what we are.
Yeah. And so fabulous. So just acknowledge that. Yeah, that's wonderful. And we encourage people to, I suppose perhaps the most useful word is relax.
Yes.
Yeah. And that hint that what you're looking for is what you are. Sort of turning the mirror back. Because in that whole I'm not okay, I'm not good enough, I'm unhappy, whatever the story is, it's looking for more. Yes. Something to fill some imagined void. There's an incompletion and so we tend not to buy into that because that's a never-ending cycle.
Yes,
because nothing can ever satisfy it. The answer becomes the next question.
Yes,
it's a never-ending cycle, and I've spent many years in that loop, as I'm sure you have in any.
Oh, sure, yeah. I've been
and
there
so
too. Yeah.
We encourage people to just redirect the search, and it's quite fascinating. Sometimes we encourage people to look totally outside And sometimes we encourage people to really go within. You know? I mean, by analogy, you know, it's like we encourage the opposite of people's tendency.
Yes, yes.
I remember this is going back about 40 years ago. Kalyani and I were in a Zen monastery, and we're sitting there, and there were about 4 or 5 Westerners with us. And the teaching monk sat down, and he sat in full lotus, perfectly still, upright and teaching. So I sat in my best full lotus yoga posture, and as did Kalyani and everyone else around, you know. And then I noticed after a few minutes, I switched to half lotus. And then a few minutes later, I switched to the other foot version of it. Right. Then I noticed out of my peripheral vision that we were all sort of writhing and wriggling. As this was just sitting there. Then at one point he stopped and laughed and he said, "We have 2 people who come here, those who can sit and those who can think. And we teach those who can sit to think and those who can think to sit."
That's a great story.
And so, Hale, it was like, so people that are really self-absorbed, that are really, you know, looking for their enlightenment, we encourage them to just go in the total opposite direction, just be totally out of focus. Yeah, what you're looking for is here in everyone that is appearing, and just be present to whoever's in front of you.
Yes, yes.
You know, and it's like, I remember,
absolutely, it's the same thing. Yeah,
of course, yeah. But it's also, it's like if what they're doing isn't working, then the opposite is often quite useful.
Yes.
You know, I remember, you know, I don't know if you've ever come across Yuji Krishnamurti.
Oh, yes.
Yuji was a very radical, controversial character. It was like an anti-guru. Mm-hmm. And Kalyani and I spent a few days with him in the early 90s, and he just dismantled the search. We'd come in the morning, we'd spend all day with him, go home and come back, you know, and he was just dismantling everything, absolutely, with such love and such gentleness. And then he just said to me, "Peter, forget the search, forget the story, just go and work, make money and enjoy yourself." And so I thought, so this was, 91, I just, like, everything stopped. And I just I worked. And of course, I noticed that my work became my sadhana. I was attempting to actually be really present and focused and just do the absolute best I could do with every client, every person I came in contact with.
Yes.
So that flipping, encouraging people to look in the opposite direction is very useful.
Oh, it's very useful, yeah.
Or else we get a lot of people who are very out-of-directed, and we encourage them to actually become more reflective. Yeah, and just
slow down.
Just slow down and just spend moments of reflection.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Again, it's important for us to talk to people where they are at.
Absolutely.
Lester Levinson, my initial mentor and teacher, who I share a lot of a big part, who shares a big part of the greatest secret, used to say, when you're talking to people, don't talk to them about what you want to talk about. Talk to them where they are.
Yeah.
And that's so important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So another key that you talk about is bringing a sense of rigor, or really committing yourself to the investigation. Can you expand upon that a little?
Sure. And of course, this is paradoxical. On the one moment, it's like, be gentle, relax, and the other, be rigorous, you know. And it's not either or, it's both and.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, like, a number of the investigations we offer people are spatial, literal investigations. You know. So, like, for example, one is, this precious me that is so concerning. We encourage people to actually go and look for it.
Right.
And this is a literal spatial investigation in present time. You know, so we encourage people to just close their eyes and go within their bodies, because everything is embodied. Mm-hmm. And of course, typically they look along the chakra system, they look in their heart, they look in their throat, they look in their head, they look in their third eye. People just look, and we just encourage people to go wherever you get a hint or a hunch or a feeling, just to look for this I. So what typically happens, someone will start doing this investigation, whether I'm doing it on a Zoom or sitting face-to-face with someone. Then after a moment or two, a thought will come up, there's no me, it can't be found. Then they'll stop investigating and they'll re-identify with the thought and they'll be having an opinion about it all.
Right.
Yeah, and so we encourage people that if that starts to happen, notice it, let it be, and continue investigating. Because there's a rigor needed here. And one of the traps is it's relatively easy to have a conceptual understanding. If you take non-duality, for example, the conceptual package is relatively easy to understand after a few immersions in it. And people get the one-liners and they know the slogans. There's no me with any independent existence, nothing to do, nowhere to go, I am with that, etc., etc. There's nothing wrong with those slogans, those pointers, they're quite useful. But it's very easy for them to become another belief system. And so people don't really do their own homework. And so we encourage people to just keep going. Like in this investigation I'm talking about, just keep on looking. And if you really, really look, and we encourage people to sharpen this focus, this laser-like illuminating presence, and just really, when they start to find something, we encourage people to really redouble their efforts and really focus. And if you do this with great intensity, nothing stands up to investigation. And what's left is what's here. Yeah. The funny thing is that it's not that you get answer, it's simply that the questioner disappears.
Yeah, that's so accurate. If you have an answer, you're not done.
Exactly. So simply reinvestigate. Yeah, you don't have to do it to ever. You just have to do it until you stop.
Right.
Yeah. And it's also that thing of, like, another way of saying it's just do your own homework. Yeah. You have to make this stuff your own.
One of the things that Lester also used to say to me, and I say to my students as well, is if you think you know it, that's not it. Yeah. But isn't knowing it is turning it into an object? Isn't there a knowingness that's beyond that? Can you talk a little bit about just that pure knowingness?
Yeah. And again, we're in the realm of paradox.
Yes.
And it's and the thing about a paradox is that you can't work it out. And if you can work it out, it's not a paradox.
Right.
And so that's there is no me, yet there seems to be a sense of presence. Or if you go into, like, the essence of Buddhism, the Heart Sutra, emptiness is form, form is emptiness. Just so exquisite. So there's no individual self, yet there's a sense of presence. There's a knowing. And it's like you look at yourself in the mirror. You know that the reflection is not real, it's a reflection, yet you can't deny its presence.
Right.
Yeah. There is only totality, there's only that, and there is a sense of location.
There's both.
That's how it is, yeah. One of our teachers, Muktananda, who we met in the early 70s, he was such a wonderful storyteller. One of my favorite stories, and you probably have heard this one, it's about a man who went to see a wise guru, and he said, "What is the essence of your teaching?" And he said, "I am that, you are that, everything is that." So he heard it, he got it. He's like, "Yeah, that's it." And he walked away repeating to himself, "I am that, you are that, everything is that." And he noticed the trees and the birds and the fields. "I am that, you are that, everything is that." And then suddenly over the horizon came all these villagers yelling and running. And as they came closer, they yelled to him, "Get out of the way, there's an elephant coming, it's a wild elephant." And he said, "I am that, you are that, everything is that." And then a few minutes later, the elephant appeared roaring up to him. He looked at the elephant and said, "I am that, you are that, everything is that." And the elephant picked him up and threw him up into a tree. And several days later, he was bruised and battered in hospital with some broken limbs. And the guru came to visit him and he said, "What are you doing telling me that I'm that, you're that, everything is that? Look what happened to me." So the guru asked him to recount the story. And then he said, "Well, when the villagers were saying, 'Get out of the way, there's a wild elephant coming,' why didn't you listen to them? Because they were that also." and that's the thing, Hal. We tend to take on these wonderful pointers and selectively apply them.
Right.
Yeah. Everything is that. Full stop.
Right.
It's not everything is that, and there's a me looking at it.
Right.
Everything is all inclusive. It's all embracing. It's all encompassing.
Yes, yes.
And this presence is that. And in the midst of all this, there is a sense of separation. Sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes there isn't.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the thing. There's nothing wrong with reference points. They simply appear, and they're very useful.
They're part of functioning.
They're absolutely. It's design function.
Right, right.
And people think, oh, this ego, this me, this has to be killed or subjugated or transformed. No, just see it for what it is. Nothing wrong. It's simply just arising. It's design functioning.
You and your wife have been on a real journey. You've been to lots of places and lots of teachers.
Yeah. I mean, I spent 5 years in Asia in the early 70s, and the last journey was with Kalyani, and which was for 2 years. And we just, every day, we would look for the greatest teacher. And, we spent, at one point, we were in Kuala Lumpur, and the greatest teacher was Muhammad Ali. So we spent 5 days with him,
Right.
And he was extraordinary. He was such a presence. But just having that intention and holding it, every day, like, where is the learning? Where is the insight? Where is the teacher?
Yes.
And so,
Well, that's actually a good pointer too. Is where is the greatest teacher manifesting right now in my life?
Yeah.
And how can I honor that?
Yeah. And that's easy. It's the woman who's next door to me in bed who wakes up in the morning.
Yes, I agree.
It's our partner, it's our children, it's,
Is there something else that comes up, a pointer or something that comes up when you're talking to people at the various stages of this self-discovery that you think might add to this conversation?
Yeah. Well, a couple of things just come to mind. So one is everybody you meet is a reflection. And particularly if you meet someone who annoys you or irritates you,
Right.
that is a special gift. Jung used to say, we clothe the world with our unknown face. And particularly on same sex, for a man, every time you meet a man that irritates you, or for a woman, every time you meet a woman that irritates, I encourage people to actually awaken their presence and really take a good look. Because chances are we're actually in the presence of an unknown aspect of self.
Right. Something we haven't looked at.
Yeah, because typically we all know ourselves reasonably well, and we tend to actually put our best face forward. And there are bits of us that we know about, but we're not comfortable with.
Right.
So we tend to deny them, suppress them, or project them out.
Yeah.
And so when we meet someone who's carrying or holding something that resonates with that unowned aspect of self, it can annoy us or make us angry or irritate us.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so I encourage, whenever you meet someone who you have an irritation or an annoyance with, or a dislike, or whatever, any negative emotional, just have a good look. Chances are that you are in the presence of an unknown aspect of self.
Yes.
And see it as a gift. And so first thing to recognize, and then to embrace what is this unknown gift, and to reclaim it. It's like the beautiful fairy story of the princess with the frog. She embraces the wet, slimy frog just as he is, and loving it just as it is. It turns into the handsome prince.
Right.
So we encourage just working with people, when we're doing sort of, we call it non-dual integration.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that happens on that journey of reclaiming our birthright, in a sense, is to actually start to reclaim shadow, the unknown aspects of self.
Yes.
And then look for the gift, because, and this is, I find so exquisite, that the very thing we're needing for that integration is typically the thing we've rejected. And so reclaiming that. And it's pretty simple, just as a working hypothesis, we encourage people, like, if you meet someone that irritates you, have a good look. Take on board the proposition that it's highly likely we're looking at an unknown aspect of self. Own it. And then if you can own it, and that's a really important step, is then look for the gift. And there'll be something there. So just reclaiming those gifts, because what we need is typically found in what we've rejected.
Right.
Yeah. And the second thing that came up when you asked that question was, like, encourage reflection. And just natural points of reflection. I mean, like, end of the day, reflect on the day. Without judgment, just let the movie of the day run. If you're having a meeting with someone, grab a few minutes afterwards. If you have a phone call, just grab a few minutes afterwards. Just building in the habits of reflection. So important, because it's in the reflection that the insights arise. So just making space for our unconscious to speak to us.
Yes.
And just cultivating the habits of just being at home with the intuition and the insights and flashes.
Yes. Yes. But you're not talking about analyzing. You're just talking about a presence, an openness, and allowing
Absolutely.
for whatever arises.
Thank you, Hal, because that distinction is so important. It's subtle and very important. This isn't about psychologizing.
Right.
This is just simply being present, just like creating the space, just to be with, be easy with. Just because everything we need is always here. And that is just so extraordinary.
Yes.
Whatever we need is always available. It's just opening up to it.
And if you were going to give a challenge to our group, or something to focus on, to integrate or to explore what we've been talking about, what would that be?
I think it comes down to make it your own. Do your own homework. And just whatever the field of investigation that appears, just do it with some rigor. And don't be satisfied with any answer. Just keep investigating. Keep investigating. One way of looking at all this is, I often see it in terms of windows.
Yes.
And so one window is yes, which is simply say yes to everything. Whatever's arising, whatever's appearing, be with it. Stop judging, stop separating. This is it. This is it. Everything is that. This is it. Beautiful, beautiful. The second window is the absolute opposite. Deny everything. The 16th century Spanish mystic, Sir John of the Cross, called it nada, nada, nada. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Or in Advaita Vedanta, neti, neti, neti. Not this, not this, not this. And that pointer is particularly useful for actually puncturing any sense of arriving or hubris.
Yes.
So not this, no, it's just an experience. So what? Not this, not this. This isn't it. This isn't enlightenment. This isn't the end. Not this, not this, not this. Now, there are two windows which are absolute opposites.
Right.
And of course, the third window is what we've already spoken about, the realm of paradox.
Right.
And just being easy and learning to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
That's an important one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay that it's not okay.
Right.
Don't understand, and this is what's appearing. This is as it is. And just resting in paradox. Ah, there you go. It's okay. And, there are three different windows. And just whatever appears, we're all different. And at different stages, different moments, opening up to everything or denying everything, or just resting in the paradoxical poetry and beauty of and wonder of the unknowability. Whatever, it doesn't matter, just whatever works.
Yes.
And again, just coming back to, it's just this simple presence. Are you awake? Of course.
Right.
Yeah. Just this wakefulness. It's quite ordinary. It's not really special. And, that every person's unfolding is absolutely unique. You may or may not see bells and lights and whistles. It doesn't matter. They're neither a proof point or anything else. Everything just appears as it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such an important point too. People keep looking for the bells and whistles, and they miss that which is natural.
Yeah, yeah. Over the years, I've met so many people that would be termed awake, and become very close with many of them, and a number of them have been my students, or come and see me at various times, and it's so extraordinary that everybody is unique.
Right.
And we know that every fingerprint is unique. We know that every iris pattern is unique. And yet we don't seem to get that every presence, every constellation is just beautifully, exquisitely as it is.
Yes.
And there's no roadmap or rule book. It's just be authentic, just be spontaneous, be at home with who you are.
I hope you enjoyed our time and reflections with Peter Lawry. I'm grateful he shared his time with us. You can learn more about Peter in the program notes for this episode. His website is nonduality.com.au. That's nonduality.com.au. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, and share it with the people you care about. These episodes are dedicated to sharing the eternal teachings from the greatest secret. If you'd like to learn more about my work, my mentor Lester Levinson's work, and the Sedona method, please visit sedona.com. As you explore our site, you learn the key to lasting happiness, success, peace, and emotional well-being. We have books, courses, events, and plenty of free material to explore. Again, go to sedona.com. That's SEDONA.com. Thank you for being here, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Letting Go and the Greatest Secret.